Today we're going to be talking about, does filament quality matter in your 3D print shop? So my quick answer to that would be, it depends. Generally, the rule of thumb is yes. Printing a product or printing out a model is just like printing anything. If you wanted to make a house, you can make it out of many different types of materials, but depending on the context that what you're building is in, it may require different types of material or different strengths of material. So for instance, here we have some PLA bought online, about 5 meters. What you can see here is that the print temperature is 160 degrees Celsius to 200 degrees Celsius. Whereas this right here, this spool of silk PLA has a higher print temperature maximum of 230 degrees Celsius. So that's something to take into consideration when you're thinking about what you're trying to buy for your 3D models that you're printing. Why does quality matter? Quality can matter when it comes to a 3D print model for several reasons. One can be durability. So for instance, in the recent benchy test that I did, I compared 2 different quality of PLA. This is the silk PLA that you see right there on the stand for this benchy model. And this is also another print here with a different type of PLA from a different brand. Now what you'll notice is that there are different types of results that you get with each brand of PLA that you purchase online or from where you source it locally. The reason why that is, why there's such a different discrepancy in the quality of the prints that you get, is due to the type of filler that might be added to your PLA. So with each PLA print, you're going to see different types of filler, which result in different types of quality that you'll get from each print. Some of the standard PLA that you get from 3D printers out of the box, it's going to be more the cheaper kind, some with more filler in it. These kind are really not high quality, meaning they're more resistant to absorbing water, so they're hydrophilic, like one commenter mentioned. I believe I said hydrophobic in a past video. Apologies for that. Hydrophilic, meaning they love water. So moisture is always a problem, regardless of what type of PLA you're using. In the standard bag of PLA that I have, this is generally for 3D pens, but if you're clever like myself, you can find ways to connect them together. You can find ways to connect these to make longer spools of filament, depending on your desire. But the real question is, what conditions will your model be used in? Something that's like a toy, for instance, like this rocket, for instance. This is likely not going to be used outside. It's probably likely an indoor type of item, that sort of thing. Whereas if you have something for gardening, like a vase for a orchid or different types of plants that need exposure to sunlight, well, PLA doesn't do that great in sunlight. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about what type of PLA or what type of filament you want. You may want to go with PETG, you may want to go with an admixture that has carbon fiber, but these all have different properties, so you need to read up on them. ABS is a popular choice, but they all have different properties and structures that you need to pay attention to. So melting point is a factor. Your 3D printing machine may have a higher melting point maximum melting point than usual. So you may have to modify some of the files that you either download from the marketplaces like Makerspace or Printables or Thingiverse. You may have to modify them in Orca Slicer or Bamboo Studio to make sure that it matches the type of PLA that you're using. Now, if you have a higher end setup with like a Bamboo Lab P1S or X1C, and you have multicolor printing, the spools that come from Bamboo Lab, for instance, they have their own RFID chip in them that will tell the printer what type of filament it is and sets all the settings for you. This can be nice and convenient. However, if you're not willing to pay or maybe can't afford the filament straight from the manufacturer of your 3D printing machine or machines, then you'll have to do it manually and you'll have to find and source quality filament. Now, for the purposes of what I'm doing right now, which is prototyping, to find a good product to print in my 3D printing store, these type of filaments that I'm getting online are acceptable and fine. So some of the lower tier filament that you might find on Amazon in the $15 range, sometimes you'll get a deal, maybe you can get it for $10. Those are perfectly fine for starting off. Now, you definitely don't want to use the filament for anything that needs to support another object. For instance, hooks or hangers or something you might want to put heavy objects on. When you're prototyping something like that, you definitely want to start off with a higher quality filament type, definitely not PLA, as it's known to not be durable. You want to go with something higher. If it's going outside, you want to choose a different type as well. ABS, ASA, etc. But for the purpose of prototyping your initial prints and testing out what you want to create, PLA is a perfect starting place. And if it's something that's indoors, it's an indoor product that will not get much exposure to sunlight, will not be stress test, then PLA might be a great start. One way to test for filament fillers or how to test the quality of your filament, it's a very simple test. So I learned this online on Reddit. And Reddit has a great community for 3D printing and for functional printing, which is what I'm a fan of. So one tip that I've learned is that if you dip your PLA into pure acetone, PLA that is more pure will dissolve. So if it is not dissolving, and commenters can correct me if I'm wrong, if it's not dissolving, then there is a higher level of filler in your PLA. So that's just a tip that I've learned. You can test it out yourself. But yeah, that should wrap up this video on Does Quality Matter? And if you have any comments or suggestions on what I should print next, love to hear from you, or video ideas, love to hear from you in the comments. Leave them below. And as always, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.